Q Files. It is the 21st of January. The year is 2004. And tonight we're going to go through some matters of fact that are not only affecting the economy, but it appears, as I get different reports in from all across the country, that the banks are tightening up and that they are absolutely becoming more invasive into your matters. Now, I want to share something with you. This is becoming more and more prevalent, throughout the country, that people are being told through their safety deposit boxes. And by the way, I want to share something. The least safe place for you to keep precious metals or cash or whatever, diamonds if you have them, whatever you have, is in a safety deposit box. Several years ago, they actually had a special on the Discovery Channel showing that people who had safety deposit boxes during the Depression, and especially banks that closed, never received the contents of their boxes. I think it was like 80 years later, whatever, 70, whatever it was, 70 years later, they made an effort to find the heirs to the rightful owners of the contents of the box. But I want to read an email I got from Cal today, and he received it. He received it from someone else, and it's kind of interesting. It's called Intelligence Spending Bill, House Bill 2417. The U.S. financial Gestapo has finally moved against coin owners. A number of banks, Washington Mutual, Sterling Savings and Venture Bank, have sent out change of term notices to all their customers as it pertains to safety deposit boxes. As of 1/1/04, you won't be able to store cash or gold or silver in your safe deposit boxes any longer. This is being done under the guise of terrorism and national security. The new Intelligence Spending Bill, House Bill 2417, that has just passed, provides that institutions reveal their customers' private financials as well as general information, including tangible things. Banks must now spy on you. They're not the only ones reporting on you to the government. In addition, stockbrokers, credit card companies, insurance companies, dealers in precious metals and stones or jewels, licensed senders of money, telegraph companies, airplane and boat dealers, realtors and estate closing, and the U.S. Post Office. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am told that the law takes effect, 60 days after it was signed. So, coming about February 15th, the way metals are purchased is going to be a whole different world. So, I would encourage those of you who have waited and waited and waited, to understand the handwriting is on the wall. Now, the writer of this article says George Orwell must be having a good laugh. There wasn't even a debate on the bill forcing coin dealers to turn over records to the government upon request. And if you hoard your gold at home, you're an anti-American. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're seeing right now is the understanding that the paper pyramid is coming down, emphasis on the words. And tonight, I want to read some of the most famous gold quotes in history, and I want to thank Shane Connor, again, of KI4U, because he put them all together and posted them. I'm going to go through them. Now, here's the deal. I don't know if you saw what's happening in the precious metals market, but at last night, palladium hit $245 an ounce, platinum is $870, gold's hanging out at $410, $411, silver's about $622. It got hit again last night about a dime. But the interesting events that are taking place is that as the markets are being manipulated, the manipulators are running out of ammunition. So, as I, read these quotes to you, I want you to keep in mind that this is a historic perspective on the precious metals. And I know that some people hate when I talk about this stuff. I'm sorry, the majority of my listeners, based on my email response, like to know what's going on. I say this again. Remember, the gold, the silver, all that stuff is always, is going to be under attack because guess what? God made it, and men think they could do something better by printing numbers on paper and putting pretty pictures on it. And so let's just go to some of the great statements in history for the first half of the show. Now, I'll quote the person who said it, and some of these things are so succinct and so incredible that it'll help you to understand that just as Rome fell, Greece fell, Babylon fell, Medo, Persian Empire fell, every empire falls, and we're in the, falling down stage ourselves. Now let me start. The desire for gold is the most universal and deeply rooted commercial instinct of the human race. That's Gerald M. Loeb of Cunin Loeb fame. Gold, quote, was not selected arbitrarily by governments to be the monetary standard. Gold had developed for many centuries on the free market as the best money, as a commodity providing the most stable and desirable monetary medium. Murray and Rothbard, quote, even during the period when Rome lost much of her ancient prestige, an Indian traveler observed that trade all over the world was operated with the aid of the Roman gold coins, which were accepted and admired everywhere. Now think about that. Accepted and admired everywhere. The history of fiat money is little more than a register of monetary follies and inflations. Our present age merely affords another entry into this dismal register, Hans Sennholz. As fewer and fewer people have confidence in paper as a store of value, the price of gold will continue to rise, Jerome Smith. I like this. This is probably my favorite quote so far. Those entrapped by the herd instinct are drowned in the deluges of history. But there are always the few who observe, reason, and take precautions, and thus escape the flood. For these few, gold has been the asset of last resort. I'm going to read that again. Those entrapped by the herd instinct, you want to bet a percentage on that, are drowned in the deluges of history. But there are always a few who observe, reason, and take precautions, and thus escape the flood. For these few, gold has been the asset of last resort. Anthony Sutton, and he passed away, a couple years ago, but one of the most brilliant minds, in my opinion, of the 20th century. How about this? For more than 2,000 years, gold's natural qualities made it man's universal medium of exchange. In contrast to political money, gold is honest money that survived the ages and will live on long after the political fiats of today have gone the way of all paper. Again, Hans Sennholz. Harry Brown. When paper money systems begin to crack at the seams, the run to gold could be explosive. In a country whose currency is not convertible into gold, inflation leads to its continuous devaluation in terms of foreign currencies. Michael Halpern. Until government administrators can so identify the interests of government with those of the people and refrain from defrauding the masses through the device of currency depreciation for the sake of remaining in office, the wiser ones will prefer to keep as much of their wealth in the most stable and marketable forms possible, forms which only the precious metals provide. And that's Elgin Grosclose. I don't know who that is. How about this one? Gold would have value for no other reason than it enables a citizen to fashion his financial escape from the state. Now, the reason I'm reading these to you is because a lot smarter people than myself and others have put it so succinctly that what you're seeing when you see an escape to paper money and the condemnation of hard assets, you're seeing the desperate throes of a dying nation, and I believe that's where we're at. That's why I had Steve play Eve of Destruction on the radio show last night for music. Let me do this. James Dale Davidson. America today has insufficient savings to finance both crucial investment and its consumption of imports. We need only to take our heads out of the sand, or I would add, or other places, to see clearly that interventionism not only has failed to provide the promised something for nothing, but has led to all sorts of undesirable consequences. Indeed, many are just beginning to realize that we are moving towards disaster, even though we have been on a wrong heading for decades. How about this, Ludwig von Mises? Do the American voters know that the unprecedented improvement in their standard of living that the last 100 years brought was a result of the steady rise in the per-head quota of capital invested? Do they realize that every measure leading to capital decumulation jeopardizes their prosperity? Dr. Franz Pick says the dollar will be wiped out. The way I see it, gold is headed over $1,000 an ounce, probably much higher at anywhere near current prices. It's the lowest risk, highest potential investment I can think of, Doug Casey. And if there's anybody who made literally tens of millions of dollars, it was Doug Casey back in 1979, 1980, 81, 82. Man, he's been a gold bug from the beginning. Probably no one's older in him in being a gold bug than maybe Harry Schultz. But listen to this. In the long run, the gold price is to go up in relationship to paper money. There is no other way. To what price? That depends on the scale of the inflation, and we know that inflation will continue. In other words, the more inflation, the higher the price. Listen to this. Gold bears the confidence of the world's millions who value it far above the promises of politicians, far above the unbacked paper issued by governments as money substitutes. It has been that way through all recorded history. There is no reason to believe it will lose the confidence of people in the future. In the end, more than they wanted freedom, they wanted security. Edward Gibbon talking about the Romans. How about this? In the end, the United States, they wanted security more than freedom. Quayle. I'm just changing that around. Hans Senholz, the paper standard as it applies to money is self-destructive. How about this, von Hayek? With the exception only of the period of the gold standard, practically all governments of history have used their exclusive power to issue money to defraud and plunder the people. Do you really think that history changes much? The fate of the nation and the fate of the currency are one and the same. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we've got a currency in the United States, that, by the way, is Dr. Fran's pick, if we've got a currency that is absolutely, how should I say this, going down the tubes without massive intervention from everybody that owes everybody, what do you think that says about the country? I'll make it simple. As goes the nation's money, so goes the nation. The history of paper money is an account of abuse, mismanagement, and financial disaster. How about that? The history of paper money is an account of abuse, mismanagement, and financial disaster. That's Richard M. Ebling. The first requisite of a sound monetary system is that it put the least possible power over the quantity or quality of money in the hands of those politicians. Henry Hazlitt. George Roast said, "Whom the gods would destroy, they first subsidize." How about Irwin Schiff? All of the government's monetary, economic, and political power, as well as its extensive propaganda machinery, will be enlisted in a constant battle to drive down the price of gold. But in the absence of any fundamental change in the nation's monetary, fiscal, and economic direction, simply regard any major retreat in the price of gold as an unexpected buying opportunity. How about Robert Ringer? If ever there was an area in which to do the exact opposite of that which government and the media urge you to do, that area is in purchasing of gold. Ladies and gentlemen, how about Thomas Jefferson? Here's a great statement. Were we to be directed from Washington when to sow and when to reap, we should soon want bread. In other words, we'd starve. In other words, left to their directives and left to their oversight, we would starve. Von Mises. The truth is that capitalism has not only multiplied population figures, but at the same time improved the people's standard of living in an unprecedented way. Neither economic thinking nor historic experience suggests that any other social system could be as beneficial to the masses as capitalism. The results speak for themselves. The market economy needs no apologists and propagandists. It can apply to itself to the words of Sir Christopher Wren's epitaph in St. Paul's, if you seek this monument, look around. I didn't even want to try the Latin. We're in a world of irredeemable paper money, a state of affairs unprecedented in history. John Exeter. Public works are not accomplished by the miraculous power of a magic wand. They are paid for by funds taken away from the citizens. No other commodity enjoys as much universal acceptability and marketability as gold. Ladies and gentlemen, you could literally go round the world on gold, and people would look at gold a whole different way than they'd look at the Yankee greenback. There was a day when a $100 American bill was the world's criteria for value. Now, as you heard me talk about the other night, Russia will no longer buy U.S. dollars, and Russia is divorcing itself from dollars to be paid to them for oil. This is huge news, and you're not going to see it on the daily mind melt, meaning the networked television programs, news programs specifically. Listen to this. How about Daniel Webster? Of all the contrivances for cheating the laboring classes of mankind, none has been more effective than that which deludes them with paper money. If you don't trust gold, do you trust the logic, listen to this, of taking a beautiful pine tree worth about $4,000 to $5,000, cutting it up, turning it into pulp and then paper, putting some ink on it, and then calling it $1 billion? Kenneth Gervino. Now, again, listen to this. Michael Belkin, not Milliken, Belkin. Borrowers will default. Markets will collapse. Gold, the ultimate form of safe money, will skyrocket. Let's see this. Alan Greenspan, how about him? Deficit spending is simply a scheme for the hidden confiscation of wealth. Gold stands in the way of this insidious process. It stands as a protector of property rights. Now, that was what I call the before Alan. What we now get is the after Alan. In other words, after he's been tampered with, he sings a different tune. Barry Asmus says this, politicians can't give us anything without depriving us of something else. Government is not a god, although they think they are. That's my addition. Every dime they spend must be first taken from someone else. It's the Robin Hood mentality. The gold standard in one form or another will prevail long after the present rash of national fiat currency is forgotten or remembered only in currency museums. How about this, Donald Hoppy? Increasingly, the wealth of the modern world has come to be represented by financial assets rather than real assets. And this, to me, is a very unhealthy situation because financial assets are inherently unstable. Financial assets are currencies, bonds, mortgage stocks, bank credit, etc., and they can be quickly and violently reduced in value or destroyed completely by either inflation or deflation. Winston Churchill said this, "It is the socialist idea that making profits is a vice. I consider that the real vice is making losses." All previous attempts to base money solely on intangibles such as credit or government edict or fiat, meaning with nothing behind it, have ended in inflationary panic and disaster. How about this? Gary North, betting against gold is the same as betting on governments. He who bets on governments and government money bets against 6,000 years of recorded human history. Gold is forever. It's beautiful, useful, never wears out. Small wonder that gold has been prized over all else in all ages as a store of value that will survive the travails of life and the ravages of time. James Blakely. The proper and limited use of government is to invoke a common justice and keep the peace, and that is all. Leonard Reed. Gold is not going to fade away. It's just going to become more useful. How about this? Murray Rothbard says, "Never have the world's monies been so long cut off from their metallic roots." The gold standard sooner or later will return with the force and inevitability of natural law, for it is the money of freedom and honesty. Every individual is a potential gold buyer. Although he may not need the gold, it may be added to the store of personal wealth and passes from generation to generation as an object of family wealth. There is no other economic good as marketable as gold. Dr. John L. King says, "Start now buying gold coins, any kind," and he says, "Hoard them." Remember, the definition of hoarding is that which you had foresight to buy and put away that others didn't. So the haves will be at the mercy of the have-nots. That's why it's very important, everyone, to really start to see this hammer fall that is beginning to fall so quickly. Listen to this. Here's a letter I got from Joe in New York. He said, "Steve, I hope you're well. 2 points. Earlier today, when I attempted to cash my payroll check at my bank, and having written my account number onto the front of the check, the teller refused to honor the check by cashing it for me. She explained that I need a savings or checking account there." Understand, it's a payroll check at his bank. Then he said, also earlier this evening, he's in New York, I went to a gas station, which is almost always the least expensive. There were signs super only on all but one of the pumps. I became curious, so I paid the cashier, and I asked, "Are you running out of fuel?" With kind of a chuckle, he replied quite seriously that he had called around noon today, but so far he hadn't got any. He also stated that he was emptying all his tanks except one with perhaps an hour's worth of supply left. That's all. Joe says, "Interesting." Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, one of the things you got to look at is you got to look at the presence of shortages. They won't happen all at once, but we'll start to get glimpses, if you will, and what I call glimmers of reality. What this stuff all means is, quite candidly, that we're getting into a new era of, how do I say this, we're going to see the biggest grab for not only power, but for anything that's going to work and is going to last. Again, I got to share this with you. For those of you who may have tuned in or just turned on, there are banks that are refusing to allow precious metals, gold, silver, or cash to be placed in the safety deposit boxes. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you who have safety deposit boxes, but I'll tell you point blank from banker friends of mine, they routinely audit the contents of their customers' boxes. Don't kid yourself. They can get into any box they want. And so, again, you've got to ask yourself, who are they doing it for and what are they looking for? I think I know the answer. I hope you do. Let's see. Okay. Yep, listen to this. Kevin says, "Steve, it seems clear to me that Satan knows he must control the money. Then he can control the countries. Since our government sold us out in 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve, I'm not surprised. Looks like they are close to pulling the rug out. All part of the evil conspiracy that will capture the world. Amen, Kevin. And ladies and gentlemen, remember what Jesus said? Jesus said the love of money is the root of all evil. These guys love money. Ansel Rothschild, who was very, let's just say he's the guy that started international banking, said, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who writes its laws. I'll give you a better one. Give me control of a nation's politicians, which I control for money, and I rule the world. Think about that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on and see what else is being said. How do I say this? I guess what's new about that? Very bad. He said, this is from Maria. I have it on good authority from an experienced radio engineer that there is no doubt that WWCR 3.210 had a higher power jam in the South and Central Florida area. Very bad tonight. Interesting, huh? For what it's worth, nothing surprises me anymore at all, and it just is amazing to me that with the majority of events transpiring in this country, that people cannot see what's going on. Just totally amazing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about something. Those of you who have email on AOL, you may want to be very, very, how should I say this, reconsidering going to another provider. It appears that AOL is censoring a lot of email from specific organizations with specific themes. In other words, they have their own, call it what it is, intelligence organization out there, and anything that is deemed to be contrary to their best interests is automatically censored. For those of you that have been missing emails and not getting things that you've sent for or asked to be put on email lists, if you're on AOL, you got to understand that they reserve the right to do that. So I would encourage everybody out there to consider having at least a backup internet provider and server, because I can tell you point blank that all of the, what's the word I want, all of the lists of the people who are deemed to be, whatever, whacked out, not good citizens, they're going to be on a list, and obviously that list will be given, so you're going to have to be prepared for even an interruption and probably a blockage through some internet providers if, you don't take the change quickly. And again, this is what it's at. It's war. It is totally, totally war right now. And again, I sometimes become more and more frustrated each day because I'm seeing such weirdness. I guess if I had to rate the weirdness level, in let's say in the last decade, I would have rated it, between 1990 and 2000, I would have rated it, forgive me, that's a word, I would have reckoned and rated it at about a 7. I would say this, already just going into the first 4 years of 2004, or after the millennium, ladies and gentlemen, the weirdness level is up to about 9. How about this? Brian sent me this, and I was talking about the Chinese buying steel, buying everything out there they can buy, including all the gold and silver. Listen to this. He said, Steve, in my plastics research and development business, I generally build all of my own special machines. For this, I haunt salvage yards for technology and machine parts. In the last couple of years, I've been bumping shoulders with Chinese national buyers driving luxury cars who want to buy wholesale quantities of any technology scrap of any age. They are very pushy, and cost is no object for them. If the pile of scrap material is of a military or defense contractor origin, which is often enough, they want it all immediately and boxed to drop ship directly to China. They get very testy if someone like myself has beat them to picking over such discards. Any loss to them is begrudged. They also get nosy and try to find out what I intend to do with even the few items I get. In my travels, I run into some professional metal scavengers who have also had to endure these people on a regular basis. They tell me this is a growing problem for them and that this material gets shipped to China where it has gone over with a fine-tooth comb, and then anything not technology sensitive is sent for complete materials recovery. This is troubling to me because I have on several occasions run across classified material inadvertently discarded in the scrapyards, some of it not even expired. I would not even risk describing some of these items by email. Yet from talking to the professionals, I'm sure that this is the kind of bonanza these Chinese buyers are looking for. I love listen to what Brian's dad says. This is so good. Even a blind pig finds an acorn occasionally. If this type of activity is nationwide, they're getting lots of acorns. I hope if others are seeing this forum in other areas of the country, they will also report in. And ladies and gentlemen, that's from Brian in Ohio, and that's the business he's in. And he's running into the very individuals I told you about last night on the radio that are out trying to buy all the steel. I said, remember what Japan did before World War II, and you'll understand what's going on with World War III. Let's go to this. Let's see what this says. Okay, let me read this. This is from John in New York. He said, Steve, premise A. The dollar is falling against world currencies. USA imports a large portion of its consumer goods. Conclusion, price must eventually rise. Absolutely. Premise, the legalization of illegals will legitimize lower wages in manual labor industries. The other premise, the exporting of high-tech jobs will lower wages in those industries. Conclusion, wages must eventually fall in this country. How about wages are falling in this country? If you couple these two scenarios, rising prices and falling wages, what do you have? Catastrophe is one answer, but I would like your input into this double whammy. Well, this is from John in New York. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what he is saying is absolutely correct. But also I think that most of you are got to look even beyond that. What we're being set up for is class warfare. The haves versus the have-nots. And listen, the best thing you could hope for as a world leader who hates the United States is to get the people in the United States to kill each other off over stupid issues, never seeing that we are being played from both sides of the puppet bin by the same people. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, why do they don't want to risk coming in here and exposing anything. They'll just wait until the money gets caught up and the riots begin and civil war follows. Do you think that's being extreme? I wish I could say it more definitive than even that. So let's go back to there. How about this? Let me share this. This is a great question, and Karen asked it. She said, but for those of us that are newbies at this, how exactly are we going to be able to spend silver we bought when you know what hits the fan? If the powers that be decide we weren't supposed to have any black market barter? Well, let me just say this: every tyranny in the world has ultimately shut down the trade in precious metals. And forgive me, but that is a given. That is a given conclusion in my mindset. So the only way you'll be able to trade it is in a black market or barter. And those who are going to give up something, Karen, are not going to give it up unless they're getting something of equal or greater value. And I tell people, remember this: black market can be made to be whatever spin it is, but the black market is at least a free market, free, not flea, F-R-E-E market. And compared to the controlled market, where all the guys in the suits in New York and different capitals of the world sit around making gazillions of dollars, and you can't pay your bills. I'll tell you what, if you really understood who we work for, and it's not who you think, you'd be amazed that the word slave would not even, how do I say this, wouldn't even recognize it because of our mental slavery. That's what I'm trying to say. He said, Steve, this is from Kevin. Have you noticed how the propaganda on the lame screen, good word, news, are spinning the Patriot Act? People must be waking up to draconian laws. They seem to be on the defense, or so it seems. Well, Kevin, I hope that's the case, and I hope people scream so loud and so clearly. If you ever go into a bank and you get jerked around by some DA teller, and I think you know what DA stands for, you can start to make a scene. You can say things like, well, what's the matter? Do you not have any more money in your bank? And say, I want to see the president right now. And, basically, you're going to have to learn to stand your ground. And quite candidly, if you are a depositor and you start to get jacked around, you can basically just demand to see the man. If not, just start yelling really loud. What's the matter? Don't you guys have any more money? You mean I can't get my money out of your bank? And look at all the other people. Make sure you do that, though, when the bank has got a lot of people in it. So, seriously, the point that has got to be made tonight, if I do anything, this is the point I have to make, and God help me to make it. The freedom, the word freedom, in my opinion, is so, how should I say this, shallow now and narrow, that everything our founding fathers fought for, everyone who's died on foreign battlefields has fought for, everyone that has laid down their life for this great country, we are now absolutely being controlled. We are like cattle going into the chute for a slaughter. And again, the slaughter is going to be perilous. I refresh your memory with the words of Vladimir Putin's economic advisor, Tatiana Karajnia, that the people will be naked in the streets. Guess what? If you can't have a house to go to, if you have no food to buy or money to buy food or clothing or shelter, we're screwed. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the place we find ourselves in what I would call post-civilized America, how should I say this, enduring heathenized America, and the barbarians. Let me share this with you. Barbarians win when they come up against effeminate nations. And as this country has just become emasculated, effeminate, and absolutely, how should I say this, so brain-controlled, given the barbarians that are out there that are just licking their chops, I'm telling you, the saliva, the drool is coming out of their mouths so quickly that the gnashing of teeth has got to begin pretty soon. Well, time to take a break. I need to try and get my voice under control. If you're listening to the Q-Files, I'm Steve Quayle. Again, it's the 21st of January. The year is 2004. This is a live broadcast, and I'm sure that in the annals of history there will be a lot of dead broadcasts. So, ladies and gentlemen, take what we're talking about tonight to heart. We'll be right back.
Through the years of providing water filters to America, you've come to us and we've listened. You asked us to make the water level visible to eliminate the guesswork when refilling the water. We listened. You asked for an elevated base so the system could be used in places beside on the edge of the counter. We listened. You asked us to develop a filter that was made in the USA. We listened. You asked us to include an emergency light for camping and during power outages. We listened. After 9/11, you asked us to develop a filter that was more powerful in removing chemical agents. Again, we listened. Introducing the Berkey Light, the gravity filter requested by America, designed by Americans, and made in America. Get the Berkey Light, the American water filter, for only $259 by calling New Millennium at 888-803-4438. That's toll-free, 888-803-4438. Not yet available in Iowa.
This is the Reality Radio Network on Telstar 5 Transponder 5 and on the internet at realityradionetwork.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Quayle from Renaissance Precious Metals. I'd like to talk to you about investing in the rarest of precious metals, platinum. Platinum was discovered in the 1600s and is the world's newest and rarest precious metal. As a precious metal, platinum helps diversify a portfolio comprised of traditional paper assets. Platinum is fundamentally an industrial commodity with many high-tech applications. Strong economic growth has generated increased demand for platinum. 1 in every 5 consumer products either contains platinum or is produced using platinum. Platinum is the active pollution-fighting element in catalytic converters, converting toxic auto emissions into harmless gases. American Eagle platinum bullion coins, legal tender coins from the Department of the Treasury and the United States Mint, are a convenient way to invest in platinum. They offer investors portability, a variety of pricing options, and liquidity. Plus, American Eagles are the world's only platinum bullion coins to come with the United States government's guarantee of weight, content, and purity. Invest in the ultimate and the premier precious metal, platinum, by calling us at 1-800-424-7870. 1-800-424-7870.
Well, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with the Q-Files. Again, I apologize. It seems like I'm just about over this cold. Liz, if you're listening, I've been using the humidifier, and that seems to help. And right now I've got my face in it as I try and get through the Tonight Show. But listen, here's a very interesting question. Steve, how long can the powers that be continue to disguise manipulation of fiat dollars? My understanding is a way that would like to hold off the inevitable crash until after the election. That's a long way off, and I was just curious if the game can continue that long. My guess is, Diana, the game will continue that long unless something happens, a terrorist situation, or the world decides that America is just sitting out there ripe for the plunder, and with the Chinese and Russians in a kind of a concerted effort, they hit us hard, and there's a mass withdrawal of all of their funds from all of our banks and all of our business ventures. Then I don't think it can hold together. I'm starting to see it teeter right now, so The question is, can it hold together? Absolutely. Are there events that will cause it not to hold it together? Well, those are what we're trying to ascertain in detail for you. Here's a statement from John. He said, Steve, I work as a builder in Canada, and on occasion we've had shortages in lumber, but I was talking to one of the top salesmen at the local lumber yard, and he told me that they're having a real hard time trying to get any kind of nails. Go figure. Well, my guess is, John, that somebody's beating you guys to the nails, and it's probably the same people I'm talking about tonight on the radio. So it will be very, very interesting. By the way, I want everyone who has experiences at their banks that are unusual, please send them to me. Betty just sent me one I don't know yet. We'll read it, and let's see what it says. She said, Steve, for the last year, she's also in New York, for the last year I've been going to my bank to get a bank check for $400 to send to one of my creditors. They informed me that no more checks would be given for amounts under $1,000. They told me that I could get a money order and it would cost me $3. They said it was a new bank policy. I was furious, especially since the post office only charges 90 cents for the same money order. What do you make of this? Well, all I can tell you, Betty, is most banks that I have dealt with want to charge anywhere from $2 to $3 for a money order. But I think, again, what banks are becoming is more hostile, and the majority of them are looking for money in every direction. So just look for a compression in services, a raising of charges, and just an inhospitable experience. Listen, I went to a bank in Bozeman, and I've banked in this town for 30 years. Everybody, that's a banker, I've probably been at their bank at one time or another, and still, they were required by law, even from the people they knew, they had to get the same stuff, had to know what my occupation was. I mean, it was such how should I say this, a laborious, stupid undertaking that I have ever seen. And if you don't think that bureaucracy can kill you or drown you, just look at the history of the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union. Now you've got communists with capitalist skills, and watch the way of the symbiotic relationship between those two functions. See what this statement says. Okay. Somebody's asked me, what's the latest with Doug Hagman? He said that he hasn't updated several days now. I know he's a full-time job on top of the website. He's probably too busy right now. But just wondering what the latest is the last time you talked to him. I talked to him last night. He said he's preparing an update. One of the things people have got to understand, everybody, including Doug, is that, not Doug Hagman, Doug that's asking me the question, is that they go to a great length to verify a lot of stuff. Doug has just made it more of a commitment than ever to bounce everything off. And because of his relationship with a lot of people that go to him now saying, you give me better information than the powers that be, there's new access. So he's taking extra special care to try and get as much and the maximum confirmations as possible. So that's what's going on with Doug Hagman. I hope that answers your questions. Okay, everyone, the world is a-changing. By the way, how many of you out there like the Birds and Buffalo Springfield and Mason Prophet? Those of you who are 50s would probably remember that. And, it's just amazing because I think back on the times when I had relatively few end-of-the-world cares. And in my case, it was in the, early 60s going into the late 60s. But what's happening now, I notice I'm watching young people, and I maintain that, are any of you seeing, and please, I'm not picking on anybody that's bald, I'm headed that way myself. I've got a receding hairline, and I wish it was receded, R-E-S-E-E-D-E-D. But I'm noticing that I'm seeing so many young people that do not have any hair. They don't have it on their head, they don't have it on their face, and, I'm just amazed by that. Now, why I'm amazed by that is because the sperm counts are down. And the sperm counts are down, and the estrogens, xenoestrogens, in other words, female hormones, are way, way up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the last thing you probably want to fight is an army that's got more than their fair share of testosterone coursing through their veins, like the Huns, Most people would probably take on the Hunnies rather than Attila the Hun. But are any of you other people who are open to what's going on out there? I mean, obviously when you hit 50, anywhere between 50 and 60, chances are, if it's genetic, you're going to lose some of your hair. But what I'm seeing, and I'm not kidding you, I'm seeing 17, 19-year-olds, and I'm not talking about guys who cut their hair and shave it, I can obviously tell the difference, but it's just an amazing thing to me that it appears that, how do I say this, the effeminization of America will be recorded as a historic, not oddity, but curiosity, because, again, the barbarians are at the gates. It's amazing to me. It's totally amazing to me that we're just seeing this. And, again, I just share that with you just to get, your response. Let me share this one more time, because Rick in Florida sent this to me, and he said, if I had any gold, a bank would be the last place I would ever think of keeping it, or anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I want you to know something. You may have to consider moving or being ready to move. Some of you can't, some of you can. But please understand, my guess is, and this is an educated guess, I can't say that I know for sure, but my guess is the first places to go under martial law will be the biggest cities with the biggest ethnic problems that can be stirred up. My guess is that you'll see pretty much the desert Southwest under martial law, Los Angeles, you'll see Chicago, New York, and this is my guess, Miami, and if I'm missing anything else, I'm sure I am, probably Seattle, probably Portland, and those are the areas first. When that event happens, you've got a window of opportunity to get on your high horse, low horse, hobby horse, four-wheeler, ATV, whatever you can get out of town on, and you must have a place to go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I talked to one of my listeners today. He lives in Upper Michigan, and if there's anybody listening to this broadcast that would like to get in touch with some different people in the Upper Peninsula around Marquette County, etc., will you send me an email? I have a really good friend now. We just spent a lot of time talking. One of the rarest men I've ever talked to, quite candidly, because he's got the cojones to make a difference and stand his ground. By the way, Joel, that's a compliment. So, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anybody out there in Marquette, Michigan area, and you can either email me if you don't have access to email, just please call me at the 800 number, 800-424-7870, and leave your number, and I'll put you in contact. I told my friend that obviously there's no way for me to screen people. He says, I don't care. He said, this thing is coming down quick, and I want to know people of like-mindedness. That's my that's my chief complaint. I wish there was a way I knew how to do it. The American Survival Guide used to have a neat deal. In the back of their magazine, they're out of business now. In the back of their magazine, they used to have ways that people could contact each other because they had a code that would be given to the city and state, and then if somebody, the people would put in short one-sentence, two-sentencing, living in the Midwest, realist, blah, 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 ex-military, looking for people of like mind, contact, and you sent your contact information to a P.O. box, and A didn't know who B was until B answered A. That's the only way I know. But again, it's really important that those of you, and this doesn't just go for Marquette, but here's a gentleman that said, I don't care, I want to meet people that know what's going on and are wanting to look for others. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I would encourage you, if you live in that part of the world, to send me an email, give me your name and phone number, and I'll put you in touch with Joel. Okay, let's go back to some of the issues I raised tonight. Excuse me. This is from Bob. He says, Steve, I buy all my orders at the U.S. Post Office because they don't go through or show at the Federal Reserve. The Post Office, in essence, has their own bank and clearinghouse. This is the safest way, but they charge $1.25 versus 20 cents at Albertsons Grocery. But now here in Phoenix, they want to log in your ID if you buy too many money orders over 1,000. Otherwise, all other money orders go through the Fed and can be monitored. Sometimes I pay for things I don't want to leave a trail for Snoopy snoopers, Bob in Phoenix. I think the Post Office, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you that use P.O. money orders, don't they have a limit now? And I believe that they're going to put into effect, in order to get a money order, you're going to have to show your driver's license. So, again, watch out, everyone. It's coming down. Let's go here. Okay. Let's see what this says. 3.210 again. Okay, that's good for you, Rick. He's at 57 years old, and I still have a thick, full head of hair. Amen. Okay, let's go to this, see what this is. You guys, I can't, how do I say this? I can't sort my emails fast enough. I try and read and talk at the same time, and I don't chew gum, so that, fortunately, is out of the thing. But here it is. Let's go to Peg. She said, Steve, my husband tried to deposit his check into my bank account. They told him he had to write on the back, paid the order of, and then sign the check. We never had to do this before. When calling the bank, they said it was a part of the Patriot Act. They were very nasty. This could cause problems if the IRS wanted to count this income for me, although it's not. What Peg is saying is that two-party checks, if I write a check to my wife or vice versa, to my account or to our account, that can be considered income. And again, see, what's coming down, everyone, and do you feel the noose tightening? Honestly, do you feel it tightening? Because we are seeing it tightening, and how do I say this? We're seeing now the, if you, what is it? You want to keep a mean dog on a long leash, and you want to keep the meanest dog on the longest leash. But now these guys are starting to act like fishermen, man. They're reeling everybody in. And again, it becomes more and more, how do I say this, difficult to think of the word freedom, F-R-E-E-D-O-M, as lasting much longer. Because remember, the word freedom has as its prefix the word free, okay? And free means without encumbrances. Again, the only if I were a cartoonist, I'm not. My stick figures look like they died of anorexia. I mean, in art, okay? I think the teacher absolutely would cry when she'd see my pathetic attempt at drawing. I'm really bad, by the way. But anyway, if I were a cartoonist, I would show a guy who in 1 minute is at the pinnacle, kind of like a cartoon strip. He's in a three-piece suit, and then he's out on the street, and he goes to get any help, and they put a chain on him. And pretty soon, by the time the bureaucrats are through chaining him, he's got so many chains he can't walk. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what's happening. You are being chained. I am being chained. We are all being chained. C-H-A-I-N-E-D. And that's what's, how should I say this, becoming more and more apparent every night. Now listen, I don't know when exactly the new law goes into effect, but I can tell you this. Once the big metals dealers, and I'm talking the big guys that send out the four-color thing, everything they have is computerized. Once that becomes computerized at some point, it will be requested in the future, maybe a year away, that those records be sent directly to the authorities. So, ladies and gentlemen, someone said, do you see your future in metals being curtailed? Absolutely, because there comes a point where I can't deal with bureaucracies. I got out of being a gun dealer just because of all the nonsense you had to go through. And if any of you are out there are Class 3 dealers, you know then the mutual stuff you got to go through if you're a Class 3 dealer. But ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. It's going to only become greater and greater and greater. So again, prioritize. Some night I want to do, if somebody's got a great job that they can share, when I say not working for someone, but you've had to get a job, and you found a way to make money. Any of you guys that want to share your ideas with people with very little investment, and there's some great ideas out there, by the way, please email them to me, and we'll do a show as soon as I get enough ideas. Now, last time I asked for that, I don't think I got either one or two suggestions, so if I can't do a show on that. But what I'm saying to you is this. I have pushed over and over and over all the years I've been on talk radio, 10 years now, 11 years, that people need to be concerned with the fractional gold pieces, the 1/10 ounce and the quarter ounce, because they are small, they can be hidden, they can be put in unique places, and the deal is that they're the most divisible by 10. I've also told you that, quite candidly, that it would be wise to get your junk bags of silver, because even if they call in gold, I don't believe they're going to do that at this point. But I'm saying even if they were, I would tell you this, that it's going to be pretty tough to call in silver quarters, silver dimes, and silver half dollars. It's going to even be tougher to call in platinum and palladium because they're industrial metals. The gold, what I can say this is if you have the other, you can basically create a paper trail where you trade one for the other. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in an absolute worst-case scenario. I believe anything less than that would be to fail you as a watchman. Will it get as bad as I think, as quick as I think? I pray not. I pray not. I pray for every day that you get, I get, we get, where we don't have to, how should I say this, button down the hatches and, spend the night looking through night vision. But the day will come when that which is normal no longer is responsive. That which we've taken for granted is no longer there. So that's why I would encourage you. And today, some of you have taken advantage of this. I came up with 20 rolls, 3 of them are sold right now, of the 10th-ounce gold eagles. And that's only 17 rolls. And they're 50 coins to a roll. And I would encourage you to call us tomorrow at 1-800-424-7870. In addition, now here's why I bought those. Because I know for a fact that the run on physical gold is taking place from the big dealers. I won't sell you high-priced collector's coins that you have no business being in. Listen, I talked to a beautiful girl today. Her mother called me, and she dealt with a company that advertises on the network I left. They sold her $27,000 worth of rare coins. Understand, this girl didn't know anything about gold and didn't know anything about rare coins, yet somebody gave her a song and dance. She asked them, she bought it a couple months ago, she asked them what they'd buy it back for. They said $17,000. Ladies and gentlemen, before you buy rare coins, call me. For the record, I used to sell some of the biggest and rarest coins to dealers and to collectors, not investors / who know nothing. But I got out of that years ago because it would break my heart when people would ask me to liquidate collections that they'd pay $50,000 for or $100,000 for, and they get 20 to 30 cents on the dollar. I talked to a gentleman today, and he bought his $20 liberties from a company, same company, old network, and they charged him, listen to this, when gold was $282 an ounce, they charged him, I think, somewhere around $450 or $460 for a 1-ounce $20 Liberty coin. By the way, there were crappy grades. To make a long story short, that's at least $100, pretty close, $70 to $100 over. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a ripoff. The coin dealers, let me make it easy for you. I'll tell you how this scam works. If I were to sell you a rare coin as one of those individuals, I'll make $100 per coin on 1 ounce of gold, okay? And that's any of the collector's items at least. Now, these guys ripped this lady off, this young lady, and I'm just telling you, it breaks my heart. I don't like to hear, listen, I'm a softie, I can't stand to hear grown men or women cry, and these are people that have absolutely been ripped off and raped financially. But if I'm a coin dealer selling those rare coins to you, and I can make, let's say, on just an average graded coin, $100 a coin, and I can sell you 10 of those, I can make $1,000. But if I sell you 10 ounces of gold bullion, 1 ounce, I'm going to make $100. What's better for you? See, this is the thing. When it all comes down, I categorically cannot see that you're going to be able to keep your quote collector's coins, and that somehow if they're rare, you'll be able to keep them. Now, the thought has always been that the rich guys collect rare coins, and therefore they'll exempt themselves from their own laws. But that was another time, 1933. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me make this clear to you. Absolutely, under no circumstances, if you are not an avid, knowledgeable coin collector who's aware of the gray sheet and the blue sheet for graded coins from PCGS NGC, and gray sheet for raw coins, there is absolutely it's a minefield out there. And again, it's no fun listening to somebody call and say, hey, I bought these things 2 months ago and they're offering me $17,000, $10,000 under what I paid for it. So my guess is that some of the coins that she said she had, like a $5 gold piece, $18.99 and stuff, the coin was worth about $2,000 and they charged her on one coin $6,000. I don't believe that's ethical, and I can only tell you this, that you better start doing your homework and stay away, flee like the plague, rare coins. in a absolutely gold bullish market, if you've got some that are really high quality, chances are you'll be able to make some money. But for the average person worried about just how do they protect their dollars against devaluation, stay out of it. I got to tell you something. At one point, I was selling incredible coins costing high six figures. And even though I was in that rare earth and rare atmosphere, I got to the point where I just could not take what I saw going on by quote-unquote, people who are in the coin market. As I told you before, I was going to invest years ago in 1985 in one of the biggest rare coin companies in the United States, and I actually went and lived with the owner, and after seeing it, I absolutely could not. I left heartbroken, and I said to him, how can you do this? This is some of the money that these people have to live with and live on for the rest of their lives. So anyway, let's just say this. He and I have parted company and haven't talked since. How do I say this? It's absolutely amazing to me. Let's talk about Bob. He says, ever notice how the freeways now completely encircle cities? They do here in Phoenix. It wouldn't take much to man them and make them into a giant containment rings. Well, absolutely, that's the plan. Go to places. Steve, you were talking about the big cities being a target. What about Indian reservations? I heard that these places are set for extinction. What do you think? Thank you for all you do. You do really see what is going to happen like it is happening right now. Well, everyone, one of the things you've got to understand is that the Indian reservations have been used over the years, if you would, over the years for testing biological weapons. And so, again, I want to share this with you, that I'm not so sure that Indian reservations would be the safest place, although some of the Indian reservations, like the Hopi and some of the other tribes, know exactly what's going on. If anybody will be able to come out of this unscathed, they're virtually unscathed, it'll be them. Let me read this from Chuck. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, please call me tomorrow, 1-800-424-7870, if you want to get in on any of those 10th-ounce gold eagle tubes. Understand, once that law goes into effect, maybe that'll change the way some of you who listen to me buy metals, not because you're trying to avoid the law, but you still have the freedom to have your personal property, your own, but your time is running out. How do I say that? I'm the owner of a business. If I wish to cash a petty cash check, $200 about once every 2 to 3 months so that we can have a few working dollars in hand, the bank puts me through the third degree. They want to endorse it. I write petty cash in the back. Who is getting it? That raises their hackles, of course. Here comes the manager. They want me to put my name on it. Why, I ask? I'm not getting the money the corporation is. Well, we need some way to track it. BS, it's my money. You know my face, my family, etc. I've been banking here for 30 years. No signature, no petty cash. You're 100% absolutely right. The noose is tightening. Ladies and gentlemen, please ponder tonight what I've been sharing with you. I can assure you that my spiel for gold and silver will come to an end because I don't believe it will fulfill the properties that you want to if it has to be totally, how do you say this, followed all the way from beginning to end. Call me tomorrow. Your time is running out. 1-800-424-7870. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bill Brumbaugh and the Proactive News are back home here on the Reality Radio.
Do they realize that every measure leading to capital decumulation jeopardizes their prosperity? Dr. Franz Pick says the dollar will be wiped out. The way I see it, gold is headed over $1,000 an ounce, probably much higher at anywhere near current prices. It's the lowest risk, highest potential investment I can think of, Doug Casey. And if there's anybody who made literally tens of millions of dollars, it was Doug Casey back in 1979, 1980, 81, 82. Man, he's been a gold bug from the beginning. Probably no one's older in him in being a gold bug than maybe Harry Schultz. Now listen to this. In the long run, the gold price is to go up in relationship to paper money. There is no other way. To what price? That depends on the scale of the inflation, and we know that inflation will continue. In other words, the more inflation, the higher the price. Listen to this. Gold bears the confidence of the world's millions who value it far above the promises of politicians, far above the unbacked paper issued by governments as money substitutes. It has been that way through all recorded history. There is no reason to believe it will lose the confidence of people in the future. In the end, more than they wanted freedom, they wanted security. Edward Gibbon talking about the Romans. How about this? In the end, the United States, they wanted security more than freedom. Quayle. I'm just changing that around. Hans Senholz, the paper standard as it applies to money is self-destructive. How about this? Von Hayek. With the exception only of the period of the gold standard, practically all governments of history have used their exclusive power to issue money to defraud and plunder the people. Do you really think that history changes much? The fate of the nation and the fate of the currency are one and the same. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we've got a currency in the United States, that, by the way, is Dr. Fran's pick, if we've got a currency that is absolutely, how should I say this, going down the tubes without massive intervention from everybody that owes everybody, what do you think that says about the country? I'll make it simple. As goes the nation's money, so goes the nation. The history of paper money is an account of abuse, mismanagement, and financial disaster. How about that? The history of paper money is an account of abuse, mismanagement, and financial disaster. That's Richard M. Ebling. The first requisite of a sound monetary system is that it put the least possible power over the quantity or quality of money in the hands of those politicians. Henry Hazlitt. George Rowe said, "Whom the gods would destroy, they first subsidize." How about Irwin Schiff? All of the government's monetary, economic, and political power, as well as its extensive propaganda machinery, will be enlisted in a constant battle to drive down the price of gold. But in the absence of any fundamental change in the nation's monetary, fiscal, and economic direction, simply regard any major retreat in the price of gold as an unexpected buying opportunity. How about Robert Ringer? If ever there was an area in which to do the exact opposite of that which government and the media urge you to do, that area is in purchasing of gold. Ladies and gentlemen, how about Thomas Jefferson? Here's a great statement. Were we to be directed from Washington when to sow and when to reap, we should soon want bread. In other words, we'd starve. In other words, left to their directives and left to their oversight, we would starve. Von Mises. The truth is that capitalism has not only multiplied population figures, but at the same time improved the people's standard of living in an unprecedented way. Neither economic thinking nor historic experience suggests that any other social system could be as beneficial to the masses as capitalism. The results speak for themselves. The market economy needs no apologists and propagandists. It can apply to itself to the words of Sir Christopher Wren's epitaph in St. Paul's, if you seek this monument, look around. I didn't even want to try the Latin. We're in a world of irredeemable paper money, a state of affairs unprecedented in history. John Exeter. Public works are not accomplished by the miraculous power of a magic wand. They are paid for by funds taken away from the citizens. No other commodity enjoys as much universal acceptability and marketability as gold. Ladies and gentlemen, you could literally go round the world on gold, and people would look at gold a whole different way than they'd look at the Yankee greenback. There was a day when a $100 American bill was the world's criteria for value. Now, as you heard me talk about the other night, Russia will no longer buy U.S. dollars, and Russia is divorcing itself from dollars to be paid to them for oil. This is huge news, and you're not going to see it on the daily mind melt, meaning the networked television programs, news programs specifically. Listen to this. How about Daniel Webster? Of all the contrivances for cheating the laboring classes of mankind, none has been more effective than that which deludes them with paper money. If you don't trust gold, do you trust the logic, listen to this, of taking a beautiful pine tree worth about $4,000 to $5,000, cutting it up, turning it into pulp and then paper, putting some ink on it, and then calling it $1 billion? Kenneth Gervino. Now, again, listen to this, Michael Belkin, not Milliken, Belkin. Borrowers will default. Markets will collapse. Gold, the ultimate form of safe money, will skyrocket. Let's see this. Alan Greenspan, how about him? Deficit spending is simply a scheme for the hidden confiscation of wealth. Gold stands in the way of this insidious process. It stands as a protector of property rights. Now, that was what I call the before Alan. What we now get is the after Alan. In other words, after he's been tampered with, he sings a different tune. Barry Asmus says this: politicians can't give us anything without depriving us of something else. Government is not a god, although they think they are. That's my addition. Every dime they spend must be first taken from someone else. It's the Robin Hood mentality. The gold standard in one form or another will prevail long after the present rash of national fiat currency is forgotten or remembered only in currency museums. How about this? Donald Hoppy. Increasingly, the wealth of the modern world has come to be represented by financial assets rather than real assets. And this, to me, is a very unhealthy situation because financial assets are inherently unstable. Financial assets are currencies, bonds, mortgage stocks, bank credit, etc., and they can be quickly and violently reduced in value or destroyed completely by either inflation or deflation. Winston Churchill said this: "It is the socialist idea that making profits is a vice. I consider that the real vice is making losses." All previous attempts to base money solely on intangibles such as credit or government edict or fiat, meaning with nothing behind it, have ended in inflationary panic and disaster. How about this? Gary North: "Betting against gold is the same as betting on governments. He who bets on governments and government money bets against 6,000 years of recorded human history." Gold is forever. It's beautiful, useful, never wears out. Small wonder that gold has been prized over all else in all ages as a store of value that will survive the travails of life and the ravages of time. James Blakely. The proper and limited use of government is to invoke a common justice and keep the peace, and that is all. Leonard Reed. Gold is not going to fade away. It's just going to become more useful. How about this? Murray Rothbard says, "Never have the world's monies been so long cut off from their metallic roots." The gold standard sooner or later will return with the force and inevitability of natural law, for it is a money of freedom and honesty. Every individual is a potential gold buyer. Although he may not need the gold, it may be added to the store of personal wealth and passes from generation to generation as an object of family wealth. There is no other economic good as marketable as gold. Dr. John L. King says, "Start now buying gold coins, any kind," and he says, "Hoard them." Remember, the definition of hoarding is that which you had foresight to buy and put away that others didn't. So the haves will be at the mercy of the have-nots. That's why it's very important, everyone, to really start to see this hammer fall that is beginning to fall so quickly. Listen to this. Here's a letter I got from Joe in New York. He said, "Steve, I hope you're well. 2 points. Earlier today, when I attempted to cash my payroll check at my bank, and having written my account number onto the front of the check, the teller refused to honor the check by cashing it for me. She explained that I need a savings or checking account there." Understand, it's a payroll check at his bank. Then he said, also earlier this evening, he's in New York, I went to a gas station, which is almost always the least expensive. There were signs super only on all but one of the pumps. Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Q Files. It is the 21st of January. The year is 2004. And tonight we're going to go through some matters of fact that are not only affecting the economy, but it appears, as I get different reports in from all across the country, that the banks are tightening up and that they are absolutely becoming more invasive into your matters. Now, I want to share something with you. This is becoming more and more prevalent, throughout the country, that people are being told through their safety deposit boxes. And by the way, I want to share something. The least safe place for you to keep precious metals or cash or whatever, diamonds if you have them, whatever you have, is in a safety deposit box. Several years ago, they actually had a special on the Discovery Channel showing that people who had safety deposit boxes during the Depression, and especially banks that closed, never received the contents of their boxes. I think it was like 80 years later, 70, whatever it was, 70 years later, they made an effort to find the heirs to the rightful owners of the contents of the box. But I want to read an email I got from Cal today, and he received it. He received it from someone else, and it's kind of interesting. It's called Intelligence Spending Bill, House Bill 2417. The U.S. financial Gestapo has finally moved against coin owners. A number of banks, Washington Mutual, Sterling Savings and Venture Bank, have sent out change of term notices to all their customers as it pertains to safety deposit boxes. As of 11/04, you won't be able to store cash or gold or silver in your safe deposit boxes any longer. This is being done under the guise of terrorism and national security. The new Intelligence Spending Bill, House Bill 2417, that has just passed, provides that institutions reveal their customers' private financials as well as general information, including tangible things. Banks must now spy on you. They're not the only ones reporting on you to the government. In addition, stockbrokers, credit card companies, insurance companies, dealers in precious metals and stones or jewels, licensed senders of money, telegraph companies, airplane and boat dealers, realtors and estate closing, and the U.S. Post Office. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am told that the law takes effect, 60 days after it was signed. So, coming about February 15th, the way metals are purchased is going to be a whole different world. So, I would encourage those of you who have waited and waited and waited, to understand the handwriting is on the wall. Now, the writer of this article says George Orwell must be having a good laugh. There wasn't even a debate on the bill forcing coin dealers to turn over records to the government upon request. And if you hoard your gold at home, you're an anti-American. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're seeing right now is the understanding that the paper pyramid is coming down, emphasis on the words. And tonight, I want to read some of the most famous gold quotes in history, and I want to thank Shane Connor, again, of KI4U, because he put them all together and posted them. I'm going to go through them. Now, here's the deal. I don't know if you saw what's happening in the precious metals market, but at last night, palladium hit $245 an ounce, platinum is $870, gold's hanging out at $410, $411, silver's about $622. It got hit again last night about a dime. But the interesting events that are taking place is that as the markets are being manipulated, the manipulators are running out of ammunition. So, as I, read these quotes to you, I want you to keep in mind that this is a historic perspective on the precious metals. And I know that some people hate when I talk about this stuff. I'm sorry, the majority of my listeners, based on my email response, like to know what's going on. I say this again. Remember, the gold, the silver, all that stuff is always, is going to be under attack because guess what? God made it, and men think they could do something. So I became curious, so I paid the cashier, and I asked, are you running out of fuel? With kind of a chuckle, he replied quite seriously that he had called around noon today, but so far he hadn't got any. He also stated that he was emptying all his tanks except one with perhaps an hour's worth of supply left. That's all. Joe says, interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, one of the things you got to look at is you got to look at the presence of shortages. They won't happen all at once, but we'll start to get glimpses, if you will, and what I call glimmers of reality. What this stuff all means is, quite candidly, that we're getting into a new era of, how do I say this, we're going to see the biggest grab for not only power, but for anything that's going to work and is going to last. Again, I got to share this with you. For those of you who may have tuned in or just turned on, there are banks that are refusing to allow precious metals, gold, silver, or cash to be placed in the safety deposit boxes. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you who have safety deposit boxes, but I'll tell you point blank from banker friends of mine, they routinely audit the contents of their customers' boxes. Don't kid yourself. They can get into any box they want. And so, again, you've got to ask yourself, who are they doing it for and what are they looking for? I think I know the answer. I hope you do. Let's see. Okay. Yep, listen to this. Kevin says, Steve, it seems clear to me that Satan knows he must control the money. Then he can control the countries. Since our government sold us out in 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve, I'm not surprised. Looks like they are close to pulling the rug out. All part of the evil conspiracy that will capture the world. Amen, Kevin. And ladies and gentlemen, remember what Jesus said? Jesus said the love of money is the root of all evil. These guys love money. Ansel Rothschild, who was very, let's just say he's the guy that started international banking, said, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who writes its laws. I'll give you a better one. Give me control of a nation's politicians, which I control for money, and I rule the world. Think about that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on and see what else is being said. How do I say this? I guess what's new about that? Very bad. He said, this is from Maria. I have it on good authority from an experienced radio engineer that there is no doubt that WWCR 3.210 had a higher power jam in the South and Central Florida area. Very bad tonight. Interesting, huh? For what it's worth, nothing surprises me anymore at all, and it just is amazing to me that with the majority of events transpiring in this country, that people cannot see what's going on. Just totally amazing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about something. Those of you who have email on AOL, you may want to be very, very, how should I say this, reconsidering going to another provider. It appears that AOL is censoring a lot of email from specific organizations with specific themes. In other words, they have their own, call it what it is, intelligence organization out there, and anything that is deemed to be contrary to their best interests is automatically censored. For those of you that have been missing emails and not getting things that you've sent for or asked to be put on email lists, if you're on AOL, you've got to understand that they reserve the right to do that. So I would encourage everybody out there to consider having at least a backup internet provider and server, because I can tell you point blank that all of the, what's the word I want, all of the lists of the people who are deemed to be, whatever, whacked out, not good citizens, they're going to be on a list, and obviously that list will be given, so you're going to have to be prepared for even an interruption and probably a blockage through some internet providers if, you don't take the change quickly. And again, this is what it's at. It's war. It is totally, totally war right now. And again, I think better by printing numbers on paper and putting pretty pictures on it. And so let's just go to some of the great statements in history for the first half of the show. Now, I'll quote the person who said it. And some of these things are so succinct and so incredible that it'll help you to understand that just as Rome fell, Greece fell, Babylon fell, Medo, Persian Empire fell, every empire falls, and we're in the, falling down stage ourselves. Now let me start. The desire for gold is the most universal and deeply rooted commercial instinct of the human race. That's Gerald M. Loeb of Kuhn and Loeb fame. Gold, quote, was not selected arbitrarily by governments to be the monetary standard. Gold had developed for many centuries on the free market as the best money, as a commodity providing the most stable and desirable monetary medium. Murray N. Rothbard, quote, even during the period when Rome lost much of her ancient prestige, an Indian traveler observed that trade all over the world was operated with the aid of the Roman gold coins, which were accepted and admired everywhere. Now think about that. Accepted and admired everywhere. The history of fiat money is little more than a register of monetary follies and inflations. Our present age merely affords another entry into this dismal register, Hans Sennholz. As fewer and fewer people have confidence in paper as a store of value, the price of gold will continue to rise. Jerome Smith. I like this. This is probably my favorite quote so far. Those entrapped by the herd instinct are drowned in the deluges of history. But there are always the few who observe, reason, and take precautions, and thus escape the flood. For these few, gold has been the asset of last resort. I'm going to read that again. Those entrapped by the herd instinct, you want to bet a percentage on that, are drowned in the deluges of history. But there are always a few who observe, reason, and take precautions, and thus escape the flood. For these few, gold has been the asset of last resort. Anthony Sutton. And I'm so He passed away, a couple years ago, but one of the most brilliant minds, in my opinion, of the 20th century. How about this? For more than 2,000 years, gold's natural qualities made it man's universal medium of exchange. In contrast to political money, gold is honest money that survived the ages and will live on long after the political fiats of today have gone the way of all paper. Again, Hans Sennholz. Harry Brown. When paper money systems begin to crack at the seams, the run to gold could be explosive. In a country whose currency is not convertible into gold, inflation leads to its continuous devaluation in terms of foreign currencies. Michael Halpern. Until government administrators can so identify the interests of government with those of the people and refrain from defrauding the masses through the device of currency depreciation for the sake of remaining in office, the wiser ones will prefer to keep as much of their wealth in the most stable and marketable forms possible, forms which only the precious metals provide. And that's Elgin Grosclose. I don't know who that is. How about this one? Gold would have value for no other reason than it enables a citizen to fashion his financial escape from the state. Now, the reason I'm reading these to you is because a lot smarter people than myself and others have put it so succinctly that what you're seeing when you see an escape to paper money and the condemnation of hard assets, you're seeing the desperate throes of a dying nation, and I believe that's where we're at. That's why I had Steve play Eve of Destruction on the radio show last night for music. Let me do this. James Dale Davidson. America today has insufficient savings to finance both crucial investment and its consumption of imports. We need only to take our heads out of the sand, or I would add, or other places, to see clearly that interventionism not only has failed to provide the promised something for nothing, but has led to all sorts of undesirable consequences. Indeed, many are just beginning to realize that we are moving towards disaster, even though we have been on a wrong heading for decades. How about this, Ludwig von Mises? Do the American voters know that the unprecedented improvement in their standard of living that the last 100 years brought was a result of the steady rise in the per-head quota of capital invested?